Everyone thinks wealth comes from Wall Street, Silicon Valley, or whatever city just legalized scooters. But what if I told you none of the top US economic engines are the places you're thinking of? Turns out, the states quietly fueling America's wealth aren't loud. They're lethal. And while everyone's obsessing over coastal drama, these places have been printing GDP like it's a side hustle. One state has no income tax and one of the highest per capita outputs. Another, their factories build your future while you're arguing over brunch. You're not supposed to know this stuff, but by the end of this list, you'll never look at the map the same again. Think you know America? Think again. Like if you've ever underestimated a flyover, subscribe like it's a survival skill. Let's break it down. Number 10, Nebraska. You ready for this? Nebraska, yes, that Nebraska, has more billionaires per square mile than New York City. Let that sink in while your Wi-Fi buffers on a Nebraska-built server farm. Nebraska looks like a Norman Rockwell painting got stuck in the 1980s and decided that was good enough. You think cows, corn, football. What you miss? Finance, insurance, freight, data, actual money. Omaha is a low-key financial fortress, home to Warren Buffett, the oracle of not needing to brag. Meanwhile, Lincoln's job market is stronger than your startup pitch deck. Here's the real kicker. Unemployment? Under 2%, basically illegal. Median household income? Over $70,000, with rent in Lincoln averaging just $990 a month. Top 10 nationally for best states to start a business, WalletHub. Number 1 state for homeownership rate among millennials. Yeah, those same millennials who can't afford anything elsewhere. Crime rate? Way lower than the national average, unless you count passive-aggressive lawn sign battles. So what does it feel like to live in Nebraska? Stable, predictable, slightly windy. You're not bleeding cash on rent. You're not dodging gridlock or social clout games. You're just doing well, quietly. And that's where the irony hits. Nebraska doesn't scream wealth. It invests it, stacks it, and keeps it to itself. This is financial stoicism, not startup hustle porn. Okay, but can we talk about the wind for a second? There are days in Nebraska where the air physically assaults your face. Like you step outside and suddenly you're in a side quest for survival. It's not a breeze, it's an unlicensed slap from the sky. I don't know what beef Nebraska has with your hairline, but it's personal. Picture stepping out of your mortgage-free 3-bedroom house, not a typo, and smelling fresh-cut grass while your neighbors wave like extras from a Disney reboot. You check your investments from your porch, realize you're ahead for the year, and all before your second coffee from a gas station that somehow serves better espresso than a $7 latte in LA. And if you think Nebraska is surprisingly stacked, wait till you meet the state that legally launders capitalism and does it with a smile. Next up, let's just say lawyers love it. Number 9, Delaware. Delaware is the only place in America where a building with 3 windows and a flickering exit sign might legally house 300,000 companies. Yes, a state so small it's basically a coastal suggestion is quietly steering the US economy. Delaware's reputation? Beaches, boardwalk fries, a tax-free mall where you accidentally buy more than your self-esteem can justify. But then you look closer, really closer, and the whole place feels like the backstage of capitalism. Corporate law firms everywhere, banks tucked behind seafood shacks. Everyone drives like they're trying to outrun an audit. The lifestyle? Surprisingly calm. Smooth highways, decent towns, and houses that don't require selling your organs to afford. Now here's where Delaware stops playing nice. 66% of Fortune 500 companies are incorporated here. Corporate franchise taxes alone bring in over a third of state revenue. Crime? Wilmington's higher than average violent crime rate bumps the stats, but most of the state is safer than your group chat. Median rent? Around $1,300, which is shockingly manageable for an economy built on paperwork and ambition. Unemployment? Consistently below the national average. Delaware isn't wealthy by accident, it's wealthy by legal engineering. It's the only state where your neighbor might not mow their lawn, but their LLC owns 7 trademarks and a yacht. Living here feels like standing in the eye of a financial hurricane. You're surrounded by companies you'll never meet, laws you'll never understand, and money you'll never see. But you still benefit. Stable services, strong job market, low taxes, and yet the whole place radiates this weird vibe of, shh, don't tell anyone we exist. Okay, but let's talk about Delaware's roads. Not the quality, the speed limits. You'll go from 55 to 25 to 35 to why is there a stop sign in the middle of a highway in 4 seconds? It's like the Department of Transportation was paid per mood swing. You're not driving, you're surviving emotional whiplash from asphalt. Imagine stepping out of your townhouse into crisp coastal air, hearing distant gulls, and then remembering half the businesses on your street are technically office suites with 0 humans inside. It's like living in a real-life Monopoly board, but you're oddly okay with it. Quick poll, would you live in a state powered entirely by legal loopholes and beach towns? Yes or absolutely yes? Drop it in the comment. Number 8. Utah. Utah, land of mountains, temples, and tech bros who rock Patagonia vests unironically. But here's the twist. This place isn't just up and coming. It already came up and nobody told you. When people think Utah, they picture clean-cut suburbia, national parks, and like 47 cousins named Braden. But under all that sandstone and wholesomeness is a booming economy with teeth. They don't brag because they're too busy building. Salt Lake City is now being called the Silicon Slopes. Not a joke, a real nickname. Because Utah's tech sector is exploding faster than your startup's burn rate. Utah's economy ranked #1 in the US 3 years in a row. Job growth, top 5 in the nation. Median home price, around $490,000, which hurts but is still cheaper than watching San Francisco implode from a distance. Unemployment, just 2.5%, almost suspiciously low. Violent crime rate, way below average, unless you count being aggressively offered friendship by your neighbor. Utah is what happens when a spreadsheet marries a hiking trail and raises kids who start unicorn companies in their garage. Living in Utah feels like you accidentally joined a productivity cult, but like the good kind with healthcare, job offers, and ski passes. The wealth here is practical, it's clean, it's scalable. People aren't flexing watches, they're maxing out their 401k at 28. It's ambition with a moral compass, which is kind of terrifying in its own way. But okay, real talk. Can someone explain Utah's obsession with soda shops? You'll walk into a strip mall and see 6 boutique dirty soda joints. They take Diet Coke, add coconut cream, slap a pastel label on it, and suddenly it's $6 and called the Brigham. It's like Starbucks got baptized and found carbonation. Remember Delaware's whole legal ninja energy? Utah's like that. If the ninja also launched an app and went hiking before breakfast. Would you live in a place where your neighbor could be a software engineer or a ski instructor, or both? Tell me in the comments, but use at least one emoji so I know you're alive. And if Utah is the overachiever with a 6-pack and a startup, the next state is basically your weird uncle who accidentally became a millionaire in manufacturing. Trust me, you won't guess it. Number 7. Iowa. Iowa is the only place in America where your morning might start with a tractor and end with a server farm powering half the internet. Yeah, the corn state is quietly running the digital economy while the rest of the country argues about brunch. Let's set the expectation. Most people hear Iowa and picture the world's longest corn-themed screensaver. Quiet towns, polite people, a lifestyle so slow your heart rate drops just thinking about it. But then, surprisingly, you find out it's an economic tank with a shockingly modern backbone. Clean energy, precision agriculture, biotech, data storage, insurance, logistics. It's the Midwest version of a plot twist. The reputation is soft. The reality is steel. Here's where Iowa stops playing nice. Unemployment, 2.9%, one of the lowest in the country. Rent, average around $950 statewide. That's I have a spare room and self-respect pricing. Crime, violent crime is roughly 40% below the US average. Renewable energy, over 60% of Iowa's electricity comes from wind. Agricultural GDP, top 3 in the nation, and a big chunk of your groceries have Iowa's fingerprints on them. Iowa's like that kid in school who never talked but quietly had a 4.0 GPA and a secret internship at NASA. Reddit user says, Iowa is peaceful until a tornado arrives and decides to rearrange the neighborhood like it's playing The Sims. So what does living in Iowa cost you? Emotionally, financially, existentially? Financially, not much. Emotionally, only your fear of silence. This place is stable in a way that feels almost suspicious. Low crime, affordable homes, predictable rhythms. You work, you breathe, you exist, without the constant urgency of coastal chaos. And yet, the hidden wealth isn't loud, it's embedded. It's in the farms feeding the country, the wind farms powering it, the data centers storing its memories. Iowa doesn't flex, it functions. But we gotta talk about Iowa weather. One day it's 72 degrees and you're outside grilling. Next day, it's snowing sideways and the wind is trying to remove your face like it owes it money. You check the forecast and it says something unhelpful like cold. That's it, just cold. Iowa weather is less of a climate and more of a dare. Picture yourself stepping outside into crisp, clean air. A light breeze moves across endless fields. You hear nothing but birds, wind, and maybe your neighbor's combine harvester humming like a giant metallic cat. You grab a coffee from a diner that still charges $1.25. And for a second, the world feels simple, but not small. Because behind that peaceful view, billions of dollars in energy, agriculture, and tech humming beneath the surface. It's wild. Iowa is safer than most major cities, yet one storm can cause more damage than a weekend in downtown Chicago. Nature's got jokes. Number 6, North Carolina. North Carolina is the only place where you can buy barbecue, hike a mountain, and walk past the second largest banking center in America, all before lunch. Yeah, New York's loud, North Carolina's loaded. Let's start with the expectations. People think North Carolina is sweet tea, humid summers, and retirees playing golf like it's a competitive sport. But then, surprisingly, the entire state flexes an economy that feels engineered in a lab. Charlotte is a banking titan. Raleigh-Durham is a science lab disguised as a metro area. And the lifestyle? A weirdly appealing blend of southern charm and corporate ambition. It's gentle on the outside and crushing it economically on the inside. Here's the data they don't put in tourism ads. Charlotte, number 2 banking hub in the US, right behind NYC. Job growth? Among the fastest in the country, especially in tech and biotech. Median rent? Around $1,450, which is practically a discount code compared to most major hubs. Crime? Varies. Charlotte's slightly above average, Raleigh is below. It's like the state said, pick your difficulty mode. Cost of living, about 4% below the national average. North Carolina is where your boss might pull up in a pickup truck but still manage a $1 billion portfolio. Living here has emotional consequences. You might start relaxing and still end up with a better career. You might accidentally afford a house. You might even enjoy your commute, which is a suspicious feeling if you're from LA or Boston. This state sneaks up on you. It doesn't sell the dream. It builds it with better zoning laws. Alright, but let's talk about the drivers for a second. North Carolina is the only place I've seen someone go 20 under the speed limit and someone else going 40 over in the same lane. Turn signals are considered optional, roundabouts are emotional minefields, and every yellow light is treated like a philosophical question. It's chaos, but with manners. Picture this. You're walking through a clean, leafy neighborhood in Raleigh. The air smells like pine and distant barbecue smoke. You pass a biotech lab on one corner and a coffee shop that sells oat milk like it's currency. You look around and think, this feels calm, but productive. And suddenly, you understand why people move here on purpose. And if you think North Carolina is impressive, the next state is the kind of place that manufactures America's future, quietly, relentlessly, and with zero need for applause. Stay tuned. Number 5, New Hampshire. New Hampshire is the introvert of American wealth. Quiet, private, and probably judging your life choices. This tiny, pine-covered pocket of the Northeast has been stacking cash with the same energy it uses to avoid small talk. And the kicker? It does it all without an income tax. Or sales tax. Yeah, read that again. The first thing people say about New Hampshire is, wait, isn't that just part of Vermont? And that's how you know they've never paid attention. Because New Hampshire is basically Vermont's wealthier, cleaner-cut sibling with better Wi-Fi and stronger opinions on property rights. The state's motto? Live free or die. And somehow that's also their economic strategy. Let's talk about what New Hampshire's hiding under all those trees. Median household income, over $88,000, top 10 in the US. Unemployment rate, just 2.4%, which is suspiciously close to zero. Violent crime rate, one of the lowest in America, safer than a church bake sale in Maine. Median rent, around $1,450. Not dirt cheap, but manageable for the quality of life you're getting. Tax situation, no sales tax, no income tax, no nonsense. But yes, there is property tax. Calm down, libertarians. So what's the emotional cost of living here? Honestly, peace. You stop stress scrolling Zillow. You forget what crime maps look like. Your neighbor brings you fresh eggs and also reminds you the government should fear the people. It's low drama, high freedom, and sneakily stacked with generational wealth. And because the state doesn't scream about it, nobody notices how good they've got it. New Hampshire Hampshire is where boomers quietly retire, and millennials move in pretending they're just visiting until they accidentally stay forever. Alright, but can we talk about New Hampshire winters? It's like Mother Nature is personally offended that you chose to live there. Snow falls sideways. Roads turn into philosophical metaphors. You will lose a shoe in a snowbank, and no one plows until 3 hours after you've already accepted death and started walking to work like a pioneer with Wi-Fi. Now imagine this. You step outside to crisp morning air. Snow crunches under your boots. There's a wood stove somewhere, a lake frozen solid, and silence so pure it sounds like trust. You sip coffee while watching a moose wander by. Then you log into your remote job and realize you're getting New York money with New Hampshire peace. New Hampshire has one of the lowest crime rates in the US. Meanwhile, Chicago's weekend crime stats read like an action movie script. Same country, vastly different plot. Be honest, would you live somewhere with no income tax? If it meant fighting a snowblower twice a week? Drop your answer, snowflake or freedom, in the comments. Number 4, Minnesota. Minnesota is the rare place where a guy in flannel might own half of your retirement portfolio. This state doesn't just have money, it builds it, manufactures it, patents it, sells it to you in bulk, quietly, consistently, and all while apologizing if they bumped into you in line. The reputation? Cold. Polite. Maybe too polite. Most people think Minnesota's just frozen lakes, passive aggression, and that weird Midwestern vowel stretch that turns bag into bag. But here's the truth. Minnesota is an economic powerhouse with a corporate resume thicker than a Sunday casserole. And while other states scream innovation through pitch decks, Minnesota just delivers. Let's get into it. 17 Fortune 500 companies. Target, Best Buy, 3M, General Mills, Medtronic. Yeah, that's more than some countries. Median household income, around $84,000, well above the national average. Unemployment rate, roughly 2.8%, basically full employment. Median rent, about $1,450, depending on how close you are to the Twin Cities. Crime rate, higher in Minneapolis, sure, but statewide, still lower than the national average. It's like the entire state is running a billion-dollar empire, from a heated garage filled with hockey gear and Lutheran guilt. Living in Minnesota isn't loud, it's layered. You get incredible public infrastructure, some of the best hospitals in the country, and a local economy so stable it probably owns bonds. The emotional trade-off? Yeah, winter tries to kill you, but the community will shovel your driveway when it does. This is what generational wealth looks like in flannel and snow boots. They don't flaunt it, they engineer it, with spreadsheets and snowplows. Can we talk about the weather whiplash though? You'll wake up in April, see sunlight, wear shorts, and then spend the afternoon scraping ice off your windshield with a rewards card. The weather forecast is basically just a dare, and the wind? Personal, like it knows your secrets. Now imagine this. You're in a cozy neighborhood outside St. Paul. It smells like pine, wood smoke, and someone baking something Scandinavian and probably unpronounceable. You've got healthcare, a steady job, and your house didn't bankrupt you. Yeah, it's freezing, but so is your interest rate. You feel safe, settled, even successful. Turns out, stability has a zip code. I've lived in 4 states. Minnesota's the only one where I've had real neighbors and real snowdrifts. Both are heavy, but worth it. Lisa, a nurse in Bloomington, Minnesota might freeze your eyelashes, but at least it won't freeze your wages. Meanwhile, some states offer year-round sunshine and year-round economic whiplash. Would you trade palm trees for snow if it meant your paycheck went further and your city actually worked? Let me know. Bonus points if you spell Minnesota correctly the first time. And if Minnesota is the quiet genius solving capitalism with casseroles, the next state built a billion-dollar tech forest in a place you thought was just about trees and rain. Stay tuned, this one rewired everything. Number 3, Oregon. Oregon is what happens when a nature documentary accidentally becomes a tech empire. You think rain, flannel, and existential coffee shops. But behind all that moss and mystique, Oregon quietly became one of the most advanced tech production hubs on Earth. Yeah, Earth. Oregon's brand is strong. Mountains, forests, quirk. People move here for the lifestyle. Hiking trails, tax-free shopping, and vibes so relaxed even the squirrels have therapists. But the real surprise? This crunchy granola utopia is building the literal brain chips that run your life. Let's talk numbers. Intel's largest site in the world? Hillsboro, Oregon. Semiconductor jobs? 30,000 plus, and growing fast. Median household income? Over $82,000. Rent? Averages around $1,700. Not cheap, but not LA soul-crushing either. No sales tax. Repeat, 0. Quality of life scores? High, especially for access to nature, healthcare, and general weirdness. Oregon's the only place where someone might code code an AI system by day, then spend the weekend making candles in a yurt powered by solar panels and intention. So what does it cost you? Emotionally, prepare for moisture-based character development. Financially, if you're in tech or advanced manufacturing, Oregon might just make you. But even if you're not, the state still serves up balance. Ambition meets air quality. It's the kind of place where people care about things, ecosystems, ethics, their neighbors, and also quietly control the future of global computing. Oregon didn't sell out, it scaled up in Birkenstocks. Okay, but can we talk about the coffee prices? Every cafe in Portland sounds like a parody of itself. I walked into one called the Enlightened Bean, and they tried to sell me a $7 lavender mushroom oat cortado. I just wanted coffee, not an identity crisis in a biodegradable cup. Also, why are baristas more emotionally stable than my therapist? Picture this. You wake up to fog rolling over pine-covered hills. The air smells like rain, cedar, and single-origin espresso. You bike to work past food trucks and trailheads. Your job? Something cutting edge and vaguely mysterious. Your rent? Doable. Your backyard? An actual volcano. It's weird. It's working. It's Oregon. Oregon's running global tech supply chains from inside a forest. Meanwhile, half the country still can't get Wi-Fi at the airport. Would you trade constant sun for innovation, trees, and truly unhinged espresso culture? Let me know in the comments. Bonus if you've ever had a coffee with activated charcoal. Number 2. Wisconsin. Wisconsin is the state you think you understand. Dairy, football, beer, repeat. But underneath all that lactose and Lambeau Field is one of America's most quietly productive economic engines. This state makes things, real things, not apps, not memes, machines, medicine, food, future. And it's doing it so efficiently you barely even noticed. Let's reset the stereotype. Wisconsin isn't just some flyover field of cheese curds and tailgates. It's one of the last places in the US where the middle class wasn't just born, it stuck around, bought a house, and started a successful side hustle fixing tractors. Milwaukee and Madison are thriving hubs of manufacturing, engineering, and biotech. And guess what? They did it without begging Silicon Valley for attention. The stats go hard. Manufacturing accounts for over 18% of the state's total GDP. Exports? Over $25 billion a year, including machinery, electrical equipment, and medical devices. Madison is a top 10 tech city for job growth. Median home price, about $290,000, which in LA buys you a storage unit with anxiety. Unemployment, a stable 2.9%, even post-2020. Crime? Varies, but overall, far safer than many urban centers with half the productivity. Wisconsin is the only state where a guy in overalls might build a machine that literally saves lives, then ask if you want a bratwurst. So what does it feel like to live in Wisconsin? It feels grounded, solid. You build a life here, not a brand. You own your house, raise your kids, maybe start a business in your garage that makes precision robotics or, you know, better snowplows. There's no vibe chasing here, just values. And value. The financial upside? Low housing costs, high employment, and jobs that actually produce things you can touch, not engagement. Remember New Hampshire's rich in witness protection energy? Wisconsin's like that, but blue collar and very comfortable in its flannel. Okay, but let's talk about winter parking rules. Every city has its own cryptic system. Odd even side, snow emergency levels, the wrath of Karen from City Hall. You park on the wrong side during a blizzard? Congratulations, you now owe $87 and a personal apology to a snowplow driver named Ron. And don't even think about skipping your sidewalk shoveling. They will report you, probably during church. Did you know Wisconsin produces over 25% of America's cheese and manufactures parts for military-grade aircraft? So yes, they can build a jet engine and a perfect Gouda in the same day. That's range. And if Wisconsin is the reliable builder quietly shaping America's backbone, the next state? Let's just say it's the engine behind it all, the unsung MVP that powers the whole machine. You're not ready for what's coming at number 1. Number 1, Indiana. If you think Indiana is just cornfields and race cars, you're right, but also you're wildly, embarrassingly wrong. Because Indiana is quietly printing America's actual wealth. Not TikTok fame, but real infrastructure, logistics, and manufacturing power. This is the state behind the states, the engine room of the economy. And no one's talking about it because, well, Hoosiers are too busy getting things done. Let's get real. When you hear Indiana, you probably think of drive-thrus, high school football, and someone yelling, "Go Colts" in a Walmart parking lot. But This state is stacked with surprising economic flexes. It's the #1 state in the Midwest for job creation, and not the gig economy type. We're talking auto parts, aerospace, pharma, tech distribution. Yeah, Indiana is basically America's backstage manager, unseen, unfussy, and running the entire show. Let's drop some numbers. Over 30% of Indiana's GDP comes from manufacturing, the highest share in the US, home to the second largest automotive industry in the country after Michigan. Median home price, $232,000. Unemployment rate, 3.6%. And Indianapolis is a rising tech and healthcare hub, with Salesforce and Eli Lilly making big moves. So yeah, Indiana might look like a flyover state, but don't blink, because while you're reaching for your latte, they're shipping the engine that built your car and the medicine you need to calm down. Living here means you've got a shot at actual balance, a solid paycheck, a house you can afford, and weekends that don't cost half your rent. It's the kind of place where a neighbor will help you move and lend you their power drill before reminding you he builds turbine parts for a living. The vibe? Low drama, high output. No one's chasing trends. They're too busy shipping them across state lines. But let's talk about one thing, roundabouts. Indiana loves a roundabout. You'll be casually driving through a cornfield. Bam! A 5-lane traffic roulette wheel with 0 signage and 6 different exit options that all say County Road 700. You either end up at a gas station or in Ohio. There is no in between. Indiana feels like the default setting of America, but if you dig a little deeper, it's the optimized version. Like this video if you're tired of everyone acting like the coasts invented working hard. Subscribe if you want the economic cheat codes before Zillow catches on. Thanks for watching the countdown. This has been Max, and now you know what they didn't want you to know.